The state of news in New Jersey, up next on Carpe Diem. Hello and welcome to Carpe Diem. I'm Merrill Brown, Director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Joining me today are Director Stefani Murray and newly appointed Associate Director Joe Amditis of the Center for Cooperative Media here at Montclair State. The center is part of our School of Communication and Media, and their mission is to grow and strengthen the news and information services serving New Jersey citizens, creating new models that can be utilized nationwide. They partner with news and information providers across the state, creating a statewide network known as the NJ News Commons. The center's media collaborations bring together more than 150 partners throughout the Garden State, a list that includes hyperlocal digital publishers, public media, newspapers, television, radio stations, and advertising and technology companies. Stefani and Joe are here today to discuss the center's mission and the state of news here in New Jersey and around the country. Welcome, Stefani and Joe.
Thanks, Merrill.
Thank you.
So tell us about the origins of the center and the problems it was set up 4 years ago to solve.
So the center started in 2012, primarily to help in the state of New Jersey when, at a time when there was a lot of downsizing in the media industry. There were a couple of the major newspapers in the state were getting smaller. The Star-Ledger got much smaller, laid off a lot of people. And there were quite a few hyper-local news outlets starting up. And we saw a need to help support local journalism at a time when the industry was in turmoil, yet there was hopefulness in all these hyperlocal startups in the state, and we knew that New Jersey could potentially be an experiment ground for the rest of the country and start some nationwide trends to help support local journalism.
And what's the state of things 4 years into that experiment?
So I would say 4 years into that experiment, where we're at now, the center, we have helped seed and helped grow quite a few small publishers in the state. We've also done quite a bit of training. Our base of members is not just small and hyperlocal publishers. We, as you mentioned, also work with legacy news organizations, television stations, public media in the state. And what's happened in addition to us supporting some of those small publishers and helping them grow, helping them cover local journalism, is that we've created this network of collaboration across the state. Legacy organizations collaborate now with smaller organizations. We've done collaborative reporting projects. They support each other. They share content. And we've developed an ecosystem of support. And I think that's one of the most innovative and important things that's come out of the center since it started.
Stefani, you joined us just earlier this year. You're new to both New Jersey and the center. Tell us a little bit about your background and why it's such a great fit for us.
Sure. So my background, I'm a reporter and an editor. I graduated from Central Michigan University, Northwestern for my master's degree, and I've always wanted to work in higher education, which is a reason why I was really excited to come to Montclair State. I was a business reporter for years, and then I was an editor for a while in business and in digital media at the Detroit Free Press, my hometown of Detroit, Michigan. And then I was the executive editor of the Tennessean in Nashville, Tennessee, before coming here. And this has been a great fit for me because innovation, especially innovation in digital media, but innovation in local journalism is really important to me. I believe in our industry. And I now have the opportunity to help strengthen and grow local journalism in New Jersey. And we're at a point right now in our industry where innovation and creative thinking and working together is so important. And we're at the heart of that, not only in New Jersey, across the country too, because there are other models being developed in North Carolina and on the West Coast that are modeled after what we're doing here.
Joe, you bring to the center a great deal of experience in New Jersey that complements Stefani's national experience in really important and profound ways. Your background?
Well, I was born in New Jersey. I actually moved to North Carolina for about 12 years as a kid, and then came back to New Jersey, the same street actually, and I spent the rest of the time here. I started and got into journalism as an undergraduate, and I went for political science and criminal justice, but I made my way from a more research background into journalism because I was finding all these amazing stories in the research I was doing, but nobody was reading them because they was in research papers. So I came into journalism from that avenue, and from there we started an online hyperlocal investigative publication called Muckers, which covered the Rutgers and New Brunswick community.
Which is where you went to school, as
Yes,
I recall.
yes, I am a Scarlet Knight, yes. And yeah, so from there, I actually, and Chase Brush and Simon Galperin, the co-founders of Muckers, we applied for a micro grant from the New Jersey News Commons and the Center for Cooperative Media. And we were given it. We were very thankful for that. And since then, I've been working with the former Associate Director, Debbie Gallant, on the News Commons project. And I latched on, and I've been here ever since. And finally, they gave me the job as the coordinator, and I've been trying to help other small publishers since then to try to figure out what to do and how to approach the uncertainty in the digital news business in particular.
And your principal function right now is to oversee and coordinate this thing we call the New Jersey Commons, which is a critical but not the only component of what makes the center. Tell us about the New Jersey Commons.
Well, the New Jersey News Commons is what we call the group of partners that we have. So there are, like you said, about 150, a little more than 150 media partners, ranging from the small hyperlocal digital sites to the newsletter sites to the large public radio stations, WNYC and NJPR, WHYY and Newsworks in South Jersey and Philly. And what we do is we share information, we cooperate with each other, we go to events, we communicate, and we try to serve at the center as a sort of nexus for the News Commons. So we serve as the connecting body that allows them to communicate, and we organize events and really try to bring everyone together to share knowledge. And really, like I said, one of the most valuable things that I got when I first joined the News Commons and started being introduced to these folks was just knowing that it wasn't just me sort of struggling and trying to figure out what to do. And so a lot of those people that I've spoken to are really heartened by that, just the idea of having someone else out there going through the same things, maybe not having all the answers, but at least asking the questions, and you can go back and forth and really take advantage of that leveraged network that we have.
And you oversee the publishing daily of a wonderfully valuable utilitarian newsletter, and it has a great voice that is in part yours, but also that of the centers. Tell us about the newsletter and how the audience might subscribe to it.
Well, first of all, you can go to njnewscommons.org to subscribe to the newsletter. There should be a button there. And the newsletter, I love doing the newsletter every morning. It keeps me sort of on top of what's going on in New Jersey from a state
And what is it?
Oh, it's all text, so it's nothing flashy. There's no no ads. It's none of that. It is just pure news, information, announcements, and events. So we have at the top we have what's going on in New Jersey at the state level for the most part. For Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday we have our sort of state focused. And then Thursday we have our local beat newsletter, which focuses explicitly on the work of our smaller independent partners who are doing work in their communities. And we try to highlight that work and bring it to a larger audience, the best work that we have, and people submit it every week.
And to be clear, if you care about public affairs in New Jersey, it's a very valuable thing to start your morning with, right?
I think so. I try to make it as valuable as possible, and I try to get to the heart of the issues that are affecting New Jerseyans most. I try to clear away some of the clutter, if possible, and really bring to the fore some of the most important things and the most important discussions that are being had in the halls of power, on the streets, and in our communities, and in our businesses.
So, Stefani, to step back for a minute, the work of solving the challenge of reinvigorating and developing new local news strategies is hard work. Of the many challenges that the digital world has laid out for the news industry, maybe nothing is more harder and is further away from real clear resolution than this one problem. What are we going to do about local news going forward as newspapers, TV and radio stations have fewer resources to cover their communities? Where do you think we are in figuring all that out?
That's a big question, and it's a great question. It's something that we talk about every single day. We talk about every single day with our partners and with other folks across the country. One of the things that, we know that local journalism, coverage of communities is so important, and I think that's shown at the end of this political season, especially. So we know that's very important, and we know communities need that information.
Important because it's pretty clear the national media didn't really understand what was going on out in the country, and local journalism might have more effectively addressed that.
I think
right?
that's absolutely the case. And I think that will become clear as we study what happened and as some research develops into the last several months, over what happened over the last several months. So yes, local journalism is critically important, but that's where so many large companies have been cutting. And so part of where we think the future is helping to continue to seed small publishers. You know, there is a business model being developed for hyperlocal. There's business models being developed across the country for nonprofit news. But we also think that there's a lot of value in collaboration, in collaborative and cooperative journalism based on our network and based on what other people are doing. And so that's one area that we're focusing on as well, and exploring what we can do, not necessarily on a corporate level like a Gannett or a Gatehouse, but a network level where you have independents or smaller publishers or nonprofits who are all working in the public interest, who are networked together to do journalism, and exploring ways that perhaps we can develop a model to support local news and information that way.
And very specifically about New Jersey, how do you think the citizens of New Jersey are being served today in the context of local news?
You know, New Jersey is a very densely populated state, and historically we've been underserved by news and media because we're sandwiched between Philadelphia and New York, two very dominant media markets in the country. And there are more than 550 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. And something we've been talking about recently is even doing some research and an analysis into how many communities in our state don't have coverage. Because to be perfectly honest, I think that we are developing a network to strengthen local journalism in New Jersey, but we're nowhere close to where we need to be. There are a lot of places that their news and information they get from local Facebook groups, the mom's Facebook group or the city's listserv.
And those are important.
Those are
and
very,
valuable
very important
assets, but they don't necessarily provide the journalism that
And
the center believes is required.
Exactly, and they might not, hold truth to power. They might not be watchdogs, and being a watchdog and being fair and impartial and doing investigative journalism is really, really important, and that's a concern of ours.
And to the collaboration model, which is critical to the center's strategy, we've had some successes. Tell us about one or two of them.
So actually, Joe, why don't you talk about a couple of those projects, because you've led two of them.
Sure, yeah, this has been one of the most exciting parts of my job, is to work with these collaborative reporting projects here. So the first one we did, the first real large and large scale one that we did in New Jersey was called Toxic NJ, or Dirty Little Secrets, and we focused on identifying and reporting on lesser known sources of contamination in New Jersey. Everybody knows New Jersey is the Superfund state. We have more Superfund sites than anywhere in the country per capita. And so we partnered with CIR, the Center for Investigative Reporting, and a slew of small to large publishers, including WNYC, NJTV, all the way down to like New Brunswick Today and some of the smaller sites as well, to work together, identify these issues, report on them, and produce a body of work that serves the citizens and residents of New Jersey in a way that would not be possible were we working individually as silos. And we produced fantastic body of work, including collaboration with the arts. They commissioned a play based on Brenda Flanagan's Emmy-winning reporting on homeowners and the underground storage tanks, or oil tanks that are there that presented danger and contamination. We also commissioned a stand-up comedy contest in Jersey City in partnership with WFMU, which was a phenomenal success, which we're waiting on the results of the research based on the surveys that were issued as part of those projects. Now earlier this year, we raised about $31,000 in partnership with NJ Spotlight to support collaborative reporting on immigration issues in New Jersey. That's still underway and developing, and we've already produced a small body of work based on that topic, and that's still developing and continuing, and it will be over the next year as well. And it really is, there are challenges, don't get me wrong. It is hard to get people with different incentives to work together, but that's really part of what my job is, a large part of what my job is, and what the center is sort of built for, is to balance those incentive structures, figure out preferences, and try to align them in a way that benefits everyone involved, and most importantly, benefits the residents of New Jersey and the people who have the most at stake.
Stephanie, Joe just alluded to a challenge that you and I have faced at various points in our careers, and that is trying to figure out the newsroom culture and break it down so that people actually get into that collaborative mode that Joe was just stressing and how important it is. Tell us how that cultural change is evolving.
It is evolving, and that's the good news. It is evolving slowly. You know, I mean, for so many years, when, especially for newspapers specifically, we owned the platform, and we were very competitive with each other, very competitive with each other. I mean, I used to work at the Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, and we competed with the Detroit News. We were in the same building. You did not ever want to share anything with the others. And today we don't own our platforms as much as we used to, and we're in an era of distributed content and social media, and changing that culture in newsrooms is very important. In some newsrooms across the country, it has been forced upon them. I would say that more and more journalists understand the importance of audience engagement, of talking to their readers, and how important it can be to work together, and how working in the public interest instead of in our own interests all the time can actually lead to greater good and greater impact. And I hear that message resonate quite a bit. We just had our national conference a month ago here at Montclair State University, and that was something that we heard from a lot of participants, that they loved being together and sharing ideas and fostering that environment of collaboration. And I think that's something that you're seeing now in a lot of bigger newsrooms as well, because it's just the reality today. That's how you have to operate as a journalist to succeed.
Joe, Stephanie just mentioned the platform and how, compared to today's world, it used to be so simple. Printing press, ink, paper, all of that, then digital, and now the most important thing, far and away, is mobile. And we have a really important new initiative at the center around mobile and developing new ways to maximize it. Tell us about that initiative.
Yeah, so it's called the New Jersey Mobile News Lab. It's a program supported by the Knight Foundation, the Dodge Foundation, Democracy Fund, and of course Montclair State University. And the goal is to seed mobile experiments in news distribution, production, consumption. And the tendency is to sort of assume that we're talking about building a mobile app. Everybody wants to build a mobile news app for their publication, and it's just not the research and the trends that have emerged do not point in that direction. And we're not just...
At least not solely.
Not solely, exactly. And that's sort of the thing we want to emphasize here. We don't have enough resources to build a mobile app for everyone, right? And some of the numbers don't necessarily suggest that that's the best route. What we're really talking about is experiments in how we think about mobile news delivery, how we think about mobile news consumption, everything from social video and content creation out on the go. To be able to carry around a supercomputer in your pocket has implications for how we create, disseminate, and consume news and media and information. And so a lot of these smaller publishers haven't had the resources or the time. They're very busy. They're very busy and they're very stretched for resources. And so while places like The Guardian have done amazing things in mobile, we hope to learn from that and sort of bridge that innovation gap and bring some of those lessons and those experiments to publishers who don't necessarily have years of legacies, of institutional legitimacy, resources and backers at their disposal. And so we want to bring that to the smaller publishers and see what we can do in the local level and see how that works in communities.
And I'm sorry, Stephanie.
That goes to a point, too, that Merrill made earlier about collaboration. I mean, with the mobile lab, something that we see now in our industry and we're doing with the mobile lab is collaborating with other places across the country. I mean, Billy Penn in Philadelphia is Knight funded to produce a mobile toolkit. We're working with them on when they're finishing that, they're going to share that with us. We can share with our partners. We've reached out to the mobile lab you mentioned at The Guardian. So this collaboration that we've been developing and working on in New Jersey extends really across the country, and it will benefit our partners through the mobile lab especially.
Another thing that the center is trying to figure out is how to cope with layoffs that are increasingly prevalent. They have been for some time since the genesis of the center, but increasing numbers of layoffs at traditional news organizations in New Jersey. And in this particular area, North Jersey, the Bergen Record is going through a significant series of layoffs, and the center has a response to that. Tell us about that.
Yes. So as you mentioned, as we talked about before, in 2012 when the center was founded, it was on the heels of layoffs, massive layoffs at the Star-Ledger. And Advance and Gannett are two of the largest corporate owners of media in our state here in New Jersey.
Advance owns the Star-Ledger and Gannett now the Record.
Exactly, yes. Advance owns the Star-Ledger and a few other community properties in the state, and Gannett owns the Asbury Park Press, now the Bergen Record, the North Jersey Media Group, and other smaller papers in the state as well. And so today is the last day, and then into next week for 200 staffers at the Bergen Record. And so our mission is to support local journalism in this state. And so anytime that there is such a massive layoff of journalists, about 130 of those 200 will be journalists who are either decided to leave or are being laid off. We want to help, hopefully some of them stay in the local news ecosystem, or help fund or seed or help start up perhaps some hyperlocal publishers. We want to do everything we can to blunt that impact, because there's going to be an impact, there's no question about that. So we're doing a couple of things. One, we've partnered with the Poynter Institute to offer some training for some of those displaced journalists on how to run a freelance business, how to become a news entrepreneur, how to transition into public relations too, into other communications jobs. And then on December 12th, we're holding an event here at Montclair State for folks who have been bought out, laid off, otherwise displaced. We're calling it Life After Layoff. It'll be a luncheon, as well as following the luncheon, a roundtable where we'll have a handful of folks who have either left a newsroom because of a buyout or a layoff, who were otherwise displaced, who have gone on to stay in communications or around communications somehow, to talk about how they did that.
And people wanting to participate in that should do what, who are watching our program?
So you can go to centerforcooperativemedia.org or njnewscommons.org, and the article about this event is there, and you can click on the link to register for the Eventbrite for the December 12th event. And if you can't make the December 12th event, we will live stream it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/centerforcooperativemedia. If you are interested in the Poynter training, you can also click through the link there and send us your contact information.
Poynter being a large and important national training organization based in Florida.
Based in Florida, yes, one of the largest and most influential in the nation.
Right. So Joe, fit the center's work into the national context a little bit. One of the things that you all have been good at over your entire term here has been reaching out to important national partners for projects. You mentioned the Center for Investigative Reporting. Talk about the national context of the center for a bit.
So the Center for Cooperative Media in New Jersey is unlike anything else in the country at this point. And we're proud of that, but we would like to bring, and we're trying to bring, the lessons that we've learned here in New Jersey, and the New Jersey experiment, as it's been called, to other partners and other organizations in other states. One is the NC Newsroom Cooperative that's formed in North Carolina, and we've been working with them, as well as, I'm blanking on the name right now, in Oregon. There's another organization there that we're talking to try to...
The Agora Center.
That's what it is, the Agora Center, yes. So we're working with institutions like that, and as well as Center for Investigative Reporting to
Which is a California-based institution.
Yes.
Again, I'm trying to make the larger point here about our national context.
Yes. So in addition to CIR, we also have New America Media, which is a national network of ethnic and immigrant media populations and communities and publications. And we're trying all different kinds of things. We're trying to bring the lessons that we've learned here outside of New Jersey and test them in different areas. But we're also looking at some of the experiments that they've done and trying to incorporate them into the work that we're doing here. So the Center for Investigative Reporting, for instance, is a big proponent, like I said earlier, of incorporating the arts and trying to find new partnerships outside of your traditional news and media circles and sort of realm that may bear more fruitful bodies of work in the future. So we can plan projects with local arts collectives like the Arts CoLab in New Jersey. We can work with ethnic media publications from across the country on immigration reporting and really make sure that the voices that need to be heard are the ones that are out there speaking. And it's a lot of stuff that's going on right now, and it's...
I would also mention the Lion Publishers Group, the local independent online news publishers group. We have a great relationship with them, and they represent 135 independently owned local news organizations across the country. We've also have a good relationship with INN, the Institute for Nonprofit News, which works with large and small news nonprofits across the country. And so those are also, two additional partnerships and different organizations that we work with on a daily basis to learn from what they're doing and also help them as we can.
One of the challenges we faced in running the center is bringing public attention to this issue. People seem to see local news sometimes through the proxy of failed local newspapers, and the local news ecosystem is much more than that. What would you suggest citizens do, Stephanie, to engage more in this issue? And how can they raise consciousness, and how can we raise consciousness about the importance of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing that I would always say that you need to support your local media. It is really, really important for us to pay for the journalists, the boots on the ground, who are doing the investigative reporting, who are finding out what's happening at your city council, who know why the sewer main hasn't been fixed down the road, all the way up to what the governor's doing in Trenton. That is really, really important. Local citizens can and should support local media. You can do that by donating to your local nonprofit. If you've got a local nonprofit media organization like NJ Spotlight we have here in the state.
Subscribe to the paper.
Subscribe to the paper.
If you're an advertiser, advertise.
Advertise, yes, please. Put your local money in the local market. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is educate yourself on the media available to you. Unfortunately, we live in an era today where there's a lot of fake news, especially spread on social media platforms. So I also think that citizens should make an effort to seek out local sources of information that they can trust and are trustworthy, and they know who's behind them.
And assess them as you read them.
Absolutely.
One of the issues we found in this campaign is this fake news phenomena, and we all need to be more adept consumers in dealing with the whole variety of things we see every day. Joe?
I would also say talk to your local media. I mean, the idea that there's some kind of wall that separates the media and the journalists from the people is nonsense, in my opinion, and I think everybody benefits more when we have conversations. I mean, they're learning just like you are. They have a certain set of information at their fingertips, and if you don't feel like they're serving your needs, tell them. I'm sure they get plenty of angry emails, but they're real people on the other side, and if you really aren't getting through them, start your own.
And Joe, again, the internet addresses that people can find out more?
Yes, it's njnewscommons.org or centerforcooperativemedia.org.
Thank you. Stephanie, Joe, thank you for visiting today.
Thank you.
As you've heard, we believe at Montclair State the issues of the future of local news are critical to our levels of civic engagement and how we stay in touch with our friends, neighbors, and City Hall. If you'd like more information about this episode of Carpe Diem, and you heard about the center, or if you'd like information about any other episode of Carpe Diem, you can write us at the email address on your screen. That's carpediem@mail.montclair.edu, or call us at 973-655-5158. For Carpe Diem, I'm Merrill Brown. Thanks for watching.